Today's topic is...
the controversy.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to WAYPN. I'm Cal.
I'm Sunny.
Games Workshop is in trouble once again because it's a day that ends in Y.
We make evergreen content, so it's probably a good idea to keep in mind that this won't be the last time that people are upset with Games Workshop.
The first thing we'd like to acknowledge is that it is okay for you to be upset.
Joy is the villain from Inside Out. You don't have to be happy all the time.
But we're certainly not going to open up an old drama and drag someone else into it, and then tell you that you're wrong to feel upset. That's a characteristic lack of empathy.
And then proceed to tell you to consume more product.
We are about solutions for you personally and for the community. That's why we do not recommend boycotting. Why?
Boycotting requires sustained negative energy, and you won't be hobbying in the meantime.
This is unhealthy on multiple levels.
We recommend competition.
But first, we have a question for you.
Why do you hobby?
Games Workshop broke down their consumer base into 6 core categories.
Competitive play, casual play, painters, converters/diorama makers, lore readers, and collectors.
And we are going to split diorama makers and converters, making 7 categories. Let's be the change you want to see. Kingdomdeathmonster.
We're starting out with this one because we believe it scratches all 7 itches.
Kingdomdeath has a unique visual style, and its gameplay is almost a genre in of itself.
Its miniatures come on plastic sprues just like Games Workshop miniatures, with a similar quality.
This game's gameplay loop has 3 core aspects.
Settlement phase, hunt phase, and showdown phase.
Where you build your village, hunt a monster, and then fight a monster. Why does this game scratch all 7 itches?
This game can be played both competitively and casually, although it's a cooperative game.
You can play it as a more lore-based game, a more story-based game, or you can be extremely aware of the issues that you're going to face in this game.
Due to the quality of these models, it has attracted many high-level painters, but if you're looking to smash these models out, you can. In fact, on our WAYPN Facebook group, we've got someone smashing these out every week.
Conversion is a built-in factor to this game, and that is why many people love it. There is various weapons and armor kits that you will get along the way, and you can represent them by making a miniature that looks exactly the way that it's written.
People have made dioramas of the various settlement locations. People have also made dioramas of actual showdowns, and people have also made showdown terrain.
The lore of Kingdomdeath is deep and impenetrable, filled with more questions than answers, just like Warhammer.
For collectors, there are limited edition runs of individual miniatures, Halloween and Valentine's Day specials.
Kingdomdeath is a unique game with a unique visual style.
There's a lot of images that we can't show on here.
We believe that this is the one game that scratches all 7 itches. On to
The Graves.
Frostgrave and Stargrave, respectively.
Fantasy and sci-fi settings.
This does not really seem to scratch the lore monkey part of these itches. However, it does scratch all 6 other itches.
Although they do scratch these itches to different degrees, it does scratch the diorama making and competitive play aspects the least, however.
The systems of Frostgrave and Stargrave operate in 90% the same way, so we will be giving the same explanation for both. You are treasure hunters in both.
You're wizards in the fantasy one and star captains in the sci-fi one.
You build your commander and your second in command who have special abilities, and then you build your team around those 2. Every single game is a different scenario, but you're always trying for one thing: getting the central treasures and then at least nabbing 2 more.
This game operates by using alternate phases. The commander and 3 people close to them can activate first, and then it's the next person's turn.
After this, it's the second in command's turn, and this operates in the exact same way that the commander phase did.
And then it's the everyone else phase, where all the remaining unused models get to activate.
After this, there's an uncontrolled monster phase, and then finally it will repeat.
After the end of the game, you see who's injured, who's survived, and who's died, and then you roll to see what treasure you get.
And you can upgrade your team and base accordingly.
Now it comes to scratching itches. While this game can be played competitively, it has a more casual and fun feel, but if you do want to play it competitively, you can. Just make sure that your playgroup is on board.
When it comes to converting and painting, this game is a miniatures agnostic game, which means you can use any miniatures you like, scale appropriate.
Of course.
But the game does have a certain expectation of what you see is what you get. That's why there's a lot of potential for conversions.
We've done a whole episode on it if you'd like to see it here. My best Warhammer experience. Collection-wise, North Star Miniatures produces minis for every type of wizard and star captain. In addition, they also have minis for individual scenarios.
Finally, on the diorama side, there isn't as much you can make as individual dioramas unless you want to make something that's personal to you. However, the individual scenarios give very specific descriptions of terrain, though you can use general terrain for it if you wanted to create your own specific terrain for specific scenarios. You 100% could.
For example, with Frostgrave, we've created custom terrain pieces like mudflats and fog walls, which represent certain spells within the game. Moving on to
miniature board games.
After this, we're not going to be talking about individual games because there's so many varied games out there, we can't possibly cover them all. But if there is a game that you feel is important to mention, please comment in the section below.
We believe that many of these board games can scratch all 7 itches. However, it's very much a case of your mileage may vary. Zombicide could be both a boon and a bane to a collector.
There are many games that you can play that will hit something that you're passionate about. And they're very specific. Not Heroes of Might and Magic, but Heroes of Might and Magic 3. There was no 1 or 2. They've got games for every interest. Do you like 80s cartoons like He-Man or She-Ra? They've got you covered.
There are more intense board games such as Nemesis, Blood Rage, and Rising Sun. While the miniature board game genre can scratch every itch, it's more likely to scratch 1 or 2 specific itches.
Miniature war games are different from Warhammer in the sense that they represent a complete package, a singular experience. With miniature board games, it's important to make sure that you review beforehand to make sure you're getting exactly what you want.
This is our broadest recommendation. With that said, let us move on to
Gundam. Gundam and Gunpla, short for Gundam plastic models, are great for scratching all itches but the play one. Gundam has a rich lore from manga, light novels, and of course the animes.
Gunpla are complex plastic models, which are graded. These grades will represent both the complexity and size of the models. They come on coloured sprues and do not actually need to be painted. Despite this, there is a rich and robust conversion culture within the Gundam subculture. Though due to Gundam's very specific specifications, the conversion culture is a lot more complex than that of conversions with Warhammer. Gunpla people are also known to make interesting dioramas, usually relating to a scene in the animes.
Gundam is both a wet dream to a collector and their worst nightmare. Depending on how deep you would like to go, this could be a rabbit hole that you could never recover from financially. With that said, let's move on to our final recommendation.
Gaslands. Gaslands is a toy cars game and almost the exact opposite of Gunpla. It will not scratch the itches of being a lore reader, a collector, or a diorama maker. It can scratch the itch of the competitive player, but it will certainly scratch the itch of converters in spades.
Gaslands can be played with Hot Wheels, Matchbox cars, and any toy cars that you can find. You convert these cars into the models that are described in the game. Although painting is an aspect of the game, it's far less compared to Warhammer. This is a great game for getting kids into the hobby. Now on to
our final notes. There are many games out there now where you can essentially play Warhammer without playing Warhammer,
such as Kings of War, One Page Rules, and Ninth Age.
We do not recommend these games at this stage.
Let us be clear, it is not that we dislike these games in any way, shape, or form. It's just that if you're looking to replace Warhammer with one of these games, you're more likely to hold on to your anger and resentment. We want you to remain in this hobby and remain feeling joyful in this hobby.
While you have every right to your hatred and resentment, while you're hobbying, this isn't going to help you. Once you have found your calm and serenity, then perhaps it may be the time to visit these games. And it is for this reason that we simply don't recommend jumping back an edition. The exact same reasons. Our final note is that your hobby is your own, but
Other people's hobbies are their own as well.
if they're not disrespecting you,
Don't disrespect them.
however, if they are disrespecting you and throwing things in your face,
They made themselves the target.
if you are on the other side of this conversation, whatever this conversation may be right now,
One day, you're going to find that you're going to be on the other side of that same conversation.
for us and our group,
You're hobbyists first,
and hobbyists last. And there's only one thing we want from you. Keep those brushes wet. Bye-bye. I can't wait to play Graves.
What?
You know, the surviving the apocalypse version of Frostgrave.
Shouldn't it just be called The Graves?
We can't be friends anymore because you had a better idea than me.
Oh gosh.